Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I see we have 35 people in the room and some more trickling in, but I'm going to already start and welcome everyone who's joined today to the webinar Value Chain Collaboration in Public Procurement of Textiles. Just a quick note, this webinar is going to be recorded and you can use the Q&A function in Teams throughout the entire webinar if you've got any comments to make to us. But before we begin, I just want to say a few words and really ask, well, why are we doing this webinar today and why are you all here? Well, to do so, I'm going to introduce a little bit about Circular Shift, which is our project. So years ago, if you worked in public procurement and you wanted to get involved with something called the circular economy, it was perhaps difficult to know where to begin. Maybe slow as well, like some of the animals we see on the screen, but no problem. There were not a lot of examples around there for public buyers. There were not a lot of tools about showing you how to get started, and sometimes it was difficult to get the buy-in from managers or the political level. Today, the circular economy is much more well known in Europe, maybe not well known enough, but it is certainly easier to try out circular procurement. There are several resources, platforms, books, courses, and indeed EU projects such as our own that are developing the concept across our continent. Circular Shift is one of these projects. We started because we noticed that despite many more pilots trying out circular procurement, it's proven difficult to scale up these practices across organizations. Some of the barriers to scale up include market readiness, lack of internal commitment, or difficulty measuring the impact that you want to achieve. And Circular Shift was created to address each of these. Just wondering if we can switch over to the next slide. Is it working now? Yeah, perfect. We're doing this by accelerating circular procurement pilots in Northwest Europe. We increase market readiness by developing a value chain collaboration approach, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're also increasing internal commitment through behavioral change and trainings, as well as creating a framework that measures impact. On the next slide, you'll see who exactly is Circular Shift, and we are an experienced European partnership of 10 organizations across these 5 countries. We have 5 public authorities, Rijkswaterstaat, which is the Dutch federal government department responsible for circular economy, both in the Netherlands and abroad. We also have the Dutch cities of Almere and Middelburg, who will be joined as well by the beautiful Belgian city of Mechelen and the free Hanseatic city of Bremen, which is in Germany. We also have 2 networks, ACR Plus, an international network of public authorities working on circular economy, and Reseco, a French network promoting circular sustainability in public procurement. And we also have some knowledge institutions such as Nyenrode Business University, situated outside Utrecht, and Irish Manufacturing Research, a non-profit in Ireland that puts big ideas into real-world impact. Last but not least, we have CircleLife, which is a Belgian startup helping mid-market companies to return on IT hardware. But for today, I'm going to show you the agenda now, where we have not 1 or 2, but 3 fabulous cases demonstrating circular procurement of textiles in Europe. On the next slide, you'll see who some of those people are. We're going to be exploring together some foundational concepts like what is value chain collaboration in the first place and why does this project focus on workwear at all? You're going to hear a little bit about a report that we've been working on and have a rare preview of that. But to introduce our 3 speakers, we're first going to be traveling to northern Netherlands, to Groningen, where the first case is about how post-consumer waste becomes a circular textile product. And we have a great speaker ready to tell you all about that. Then we'll move south across the border into Mechelen, a medieval city in Flanders that has a tapestry of history and textiles already. And we'll hear how a new atelier is turning its business model upside down to spearhead circular workwear. And finally, in France, a third case is demonstrating new life for clothing, transforming adult workwear into children's overalls, which is a great case that shows that sometimes downsizing is also upcycling. In each of these, you're going to hear the perspective of a different value chain partner and hear the importance of collaboration. And indeed, finally, there is going to be some space for questions and answers. So I'm delighted to see so many people here with us today from all over Europe. And I invite you to leave your questions and we'll do our best to answer them. But without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Lisanne van de Hof from Rijkswaterstaat. You have the floor. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dominic. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisanne van het Hof. I work at Rijkswaterstaat in the Netherlands, and I will give you a brief introduction on why Circular Shift is focusing on value chain collaboration for successful circular procurement. And after that, Anita will take over and give a brief introduction on the needs assessment that we did with the project. So first things first, in order to that we speak all the same language, what definition do we use for circular procurement in the project? Circular procurement considers the whole life cycle of goods and services in order to avoid negative environmental impacts and waste creation and achieve an overall reduction in the amount of energy and materials consumed. So including circular principles in procurement helps procurers take a more holistic approach to sustainability and accelerate the transition of supply chains to a more circular economy. So at the right, you see the procurement cycle as the project Circular and Fair ICT Pact uses. And when we talk about circular procurement, we talk about the whole procurement cycle. So it starts with the pre-tender phase, where you set your ambition and also can decide to buy less. Then you have your tender phase, you can buy better. And then you have your post-tender phase, and you can use better and use longer. So when we say circular procurement, we talk about this whole cycle. So in the project, we built upon results of the Interreg NSR ProCirc project. That is a past project. And one of the conclusions of that project was that to achieve circular procurement, we need to consider circularity in the different stages of the value chain of a product. This market engagement could go beyond collaboration with suppliers and engage all the actors that have a role to play in the value chain. Yet, this approach needs to be further explored if you want to accelerate the transition towards a more circular economy. So that is why the focus of Circular Shift is on this value chain collaboration. So we aim to accelerate the circular economy by scaling up the circular procurement, and we aim to drive value chain collaboration and enable the implementation of circular strategies, and also enable and activate procuring organizations to implement organizational change, to make those practices the standard. So that is a holistic approach. And below you can see the 3 work packages that we are working on. So why value chain collaboration? Here you can see a linear value chain of workwear. It starts with a raw material supplier. When it is a product, it ends up in an organization and it is used. Maybe the lifetime is a little bit prolonged with repair and laundry, for example. But at the end of life, it ends up in the waste bin. And in order, if we want to work towards circular value change, it requires that we understand who in the value chain can make changes to help us shift from linear to circular, and how we align our processes and requirements to accelerate sustainability. So how do we close this loop? We need to collaborate. And in the needs assessment, we realize that value chain collaboration consists of 2 important parts. One of them is internal collaboration, and the other one is alignment of all stakeholders in this value chain, because this is a very important precondition to enable circularity. For example, if you look at workwear, you can buy a product that you can use longer, that can be repaired, and that can be washed professionally. But when you do not organize repair and laundry services, the outcome is still suboptimal. So why does the project focus on workwear and ICT? Well, there are several reasons for this. In Circular Shift, we decided to focus on this because they are products that are procured by the vast majority of procuring organizations, and good practices from Circular Shift therefore have a big potential for replication. And they are quite complex also when it comes to value chain collaboration. The value chains are global and often consist of many different value chain partners. And furthermore, there are not yet many examples of true value chain collaboration for circular solutions in public procurement. And then last but not least, they are both characterized by a vast amount of environmental and social impacts. So there are still many changes that can be made, and we need to make a big effort in order to make this transition towards circularity. And circular procurement can help shape the demand for circular and more sustainable products. So thank you, and I will now give the floor to Anita.
Thank you, Lisanne. So I will just briefly go more in depth into the needs assessment report that we delivered last year, end of last year, and highlight a few of the barriers and needs we identified and some commonalities across the different good practices we identified. So in the next slide, outlines the process that we follow to select some of the good practices within the project, which we interviewed and delved further into. Out of a long list of 30 good practices, we identified 5 of them for workwear, which are in bold here. We had an interview with the municipality of Breda, which launched a pilot procurement to test product as service systems for workwear. We also delved into the case of the municipality of Bremen that carried out a joint procurement with 5 other municipalities to procure T-shirts. We also looked into the city of Rennes, which transformed used workwear into children outdoor uniforms, and the case of Groningen to develop circular textile product from local post-consumer textile waste, which we'll hear about more in detail in the next presentation. In the next slide, a few of the key barriers which we identified across the different cases, or most of the cases. There's many of them, but I'd just like to go over a few more in detail today. First and foremost, one barrier is the limited value chain knowledge. So public procurement department often lack insight into the actors involved in workwear value chain, as well as knowledge on value chain collaboration. Circular value chains are also more complex than linear value chains, as they do not rely on a single loop or solution, but require simultaneous interventions across multiple life cycle stages. So if a purchasing organization wants to stimulate circularity through procurement and act as transition brokers, they need to set up and manage different forms of collaboration, both externals with supplier and repairers, for instance, but also internal across departments and functions, which are often not yet established. There's also a barrier in ordering policies, which are often, especially for workwear, these policies are not tailored to the specific needs of each department. For instance, the gardening work will require more frequent washing and replacing of gear compared to post office staff, for instance. So this represents also a barrier to fostering more circularity in workwear use across the organization. We also identified a tension between standardization and differentiation. as procuring standardized models and styles such as unisex uniform can help limit the number and variety of items produced and thus support circularity. However, this could conflict with the need to tailor solutions for different users, and with municipalities' branding and identity ambitions. When it comes to needs, we identified several. The main ones is that circular value chain need a circular mindset of all actors involved. So it's necessary to let go of linear practices and habits such as ordering new items because there are still personal credits left, or washing at home, or wanting a new item instead of a repaired one. There's also the need to build further knowledge and capacity on supply chain collaboration and circular economy within the procurement department. Embedding social and societal value, including links to the social economy, can act as a motivating driver for circular procurement initiative and constructing engagement and shared purpose among public buyers and market actors. And last but not least, also important to improve inventory and asset management systems, as without visibility into assets in use, their condition and life cycle performance, it is difficult to design tenders that support repair, reuse, remanufacturing, or service-based models. Last slide from my side. In conclusion, we identified several barriers and needs. But the most important is that to advance circular procurement of ICT and workwear, public buyers need to overcome several barriers, institutional, cultural, and market related to value chain collaboration, and they need to invest in capabilities, trust-based market engagement, life cycle oriented budgeting, and organizational structures that support value chain collaboration as a core procurement function rather than an add-on. And lastly, for you to know that circularship will deliver throughout the project duration a value chain collaboration methodology, training models for procurement organizations, and a decision-making framework. So stay tuned for the next deliverables of the project.
Thank you very much, Lizana and Anita. You've explained to us the theory of, what exactly is value chain collaboration, but now I think it's time to start hearing about, where does it really take place? So our first case in this webinar is called Developing a Circular Textile Product from Local Post-Consumer Textile Waste in the Netherlands. With us to present it is Caroline Vogel. She is a circular economy advisor at the city of Groningen. And she's also going to be talking about an organization called Reblend, who they work with. It's a social enterprise creating impact in circular textiles. So Caroline, thanks for being with us, and pass over to you first. Thank you.
Okay, so first I want to check, does everyone see the screen right now? And is it properly?
Yeah,
yes?
we do.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my name is Caroline Vogel. I work as a coordinator of circular economy at the city of Groningen. Nienke Tergenhoff, she's here attending the presentation, but she won't be presenting, so I will be the only one presenting also on behalf of Anita de Wit from Reblend. But it's really Nienke who is working as a project manager and will be doing the next phase on this circular procurement tender. So first of all, as Lisanne already mentioned, we believe that in a circular economy, we have to have proper stakeholder management in order to do something about the large amounts of waste we have on textiles. So as we see it, we as a local authority are able to set the criteria, but we have to work together closely with business as Reblend, who the social enterprise who can make circular yarns, but also business like workwear manufacturers, and to work with them on a new local textile chain. But also we believe that citizens should be able to know what they can do in a circular economy. And furthermore, we also work closely with education because, well, when it comes to a circular economy, we also need the people who will be working with the circular principles. So we can work on the value chain, but it's really good to work with education as well. So together, we also decided to create a textile hub in Groningen. So all the parties who are mentioned here are working together in the textile hub and working on new innovations. And I will tell you more about that. So as I already said, the Textile Hub Groningen enables new circular innovations. You have to know that in the last years, we have worked on an innovation on circular yarns, and we created furniture fabrics on that. And we also learned that when we as a municipality are driving this transition, it enables us to have a higher circular ambition than the market has. For now, you see maybe 20, 30% or maybe 50% of post-consumer materials used. But in the end, for our products, we see that we can make this ambition a lot higher. For instance, on the furniture fabrics, we have 75% post-consumer materials that can be used. And also on the workwear that we have 100% recycled products. Also, for some people, we have 50% we could use. So our innovations are that we created yarns for denim, but also for t-shirts and sweater fabrics. And these are products that can also be seen in tenders for workwear. So when we saw that there was a European tender for workwear, we saw this, that is was an immediate chance to really enhance our circular innovations and to create more products. So we set up in the market a European tender for workwear with a duration of 7 years and a maximum value of 10 million euros. So we saw this as a really opportunity to be a launching customer for these new innovative workwear products. We already knew that we could produce jeans, t-shirts and sweater fabrics, but when we would be able to combine this with the workwear tender, we could launch these products and also be able to set up new markets and new value chains. In the workwear tender, we had 5 different lots that we want to work on. And before we set up the tender, we asked our internal customers, we asked them, what would you find really important on this workwear tender? And they mentioned wearing comfort, availability, but also sustainability are the main criteria and really the key criteria on the workwear tender. In this workwear tender, we wanted to have really a sustainability approach in that. And we decided that sustainability comes in 2 parts. One is what do the current bidders, do they have already sustainable operations? And do they already have a sustainable product range available? And on the other hand, okay, maybe they have, but what we want to do is that they work on a future circular product range and integrate our local circular innovations, because we already have created the sweater fabrics and the denim and the t-shirts already. So actually what we did is in the tender, we asked everyone to draw up an action plan. So we ask them, okay, so if you want to be a future client, please tell us how you would integrate our innovations on the sweater fabrics and the denim and the t-shirts. How would you set up this in the new tender? And we decided that we shouldn't set up barriers, but make this accessible to the entire market. So it was also smaller tenders were able to set up an action plan. So it was not only on behalf of the biggest organization in the Netherlands or in Europe to make a bid for us. For us, the main goals were that we want to, as I already mentioned, make this innovative project accessible to the various market player in order to create a level playing field. So not already set up barriers in front too much, but make a project together. So that's the second point, actually, not too many requirements at the outset, asking too much on what they have as a company in returns, how they work on circular fabrics, but really want to have a concrete bit on how we could set up a concrete project. And also for us, it's about reinventing the regional textile chain, because this model, when it would be successful in Groningen, also other municipalities like Assen or Leeuwarden or others in our region are able to do so as well. So we want to reinvent the regional textile chain and really set it up in a new way, but also linking it to what already exists. So not create total new chains, but also involve other parties who are already in circular economy and on textiles. And by starting it as a municipality, but also being the possibility to replicate it at other municipalities, we can create a regional scale and scale it up and give it more a chance. So what are the actual results of the tender? Well, we were really surprised, but there were 7 bidders that submitted. And there were 2 suppliers that really submitted a tender for a specific lot, but we saw that 5 bidders submitted tenders for all lots. And we set up 5 lots because we wanted to have more specialist bidders on the different lots. But well, actually there was 1 specialist, and that was on the delivery of uniforms, but the other supplier that's been contracted could do a bidding for the remaining lots and for the circular sustainable project. And we are currently working on the implementation. Well, for the lessons learned, well, we are really into the implementation right now, is that, well, that it would be nice to have had a market consultation in front. When we were doing this workwear tender, we saw that we didn't have a lot of time. So we passed the market consultation, but we did do an internal consultation, but maybe market consultation would give us more concrete action. On the other hand, we learn now with the implementation of the contract that we really have to set up an internal 3-way collaboration. One with the procurement department, but also on the contract management part, because now it starts. There is someone making a bid for the circular workwear, but we have to check if this really would be a good bid in practice. Are they working closely with us together, etc.? So contract management is really important as well. But also you have to have a circular economy specialist who knows about the value chain and knows what is there already, what does exist, and what is possible, for instance, on the post-consumer percentages used in the new circular yarns. So these are really 3 people that we in our municipality are working together with. And also, well, what I mentioned, the robust contract management, be clear about the scope. What is the scope that we are doing? So for us, it's about workwear and on t-shirts, sweater fabrics, but also on jeans. But it's also how to really set up what departments can be taken into account in this contract. So the scope is really important. So also when you work together with the internal customers, so our departments, really set out the agreed outcomes. So really make a list on what are we going to do, what are the amounts of the t-shirts and the sweaters, etc., but also involve them in front of the process. And also, of course, management reports and progress reviews are really important. So this way, everyone knows what to do next, but also our contractor knows if they are on the right track or have to do more. So this is actually already my last slide. What I really want to mention is that we also want to work together with everyone. So we are also looking for people who can look into this case further on. So we want to build a local textile system that ensures positive environmental impact and positive jobs for people with a distance to the labor market, etc. So if you are interested also in working together on this project or in other ones, please do contact my colleague Nienke Telgenhoff. So this is really my presentation for now.
Thank you, Carolina, so much for the presentation. I want to say also you did an excellent job representing the different stages and the different actors involved in this procurement. What I really appreciate about your presentation going first as well is you make a strong connection to what Lizanna showed us about this circle of procurement, where it's not just about what happens in the purchase itself, but what really happens before and afterwards being absolutely critical. And designing the procurement from the start with something in mind, to say, like, how would you use our innovations in the first place, designing the procurement with limited requirements so that it keeps it open for everybody, and yeah, also stressing the importance of contract management for that latter stage. I see that there's a hand up in the room from Else. I'd like to redirect, if you have a question, to first pose it in the Q&A, just because we have a bit of a limited schedule, and it is indeed actually time for me to, well, introduce our second speaker, and then hopefully later on, when all the cases are together, we'll have a really informed discussion to compare them and address all questions. But Carolina, thanks for your illuminating presentation, and we'll see you in a bit. Now I want to introduce our second case, which is concerning CiLAB. CiLAB is a textile collective which continues what I mentioned, Mechelen's proud tradition in art and design. They're Belgium's first upcycling company that makes new things from garments that were otherwise destined for landfill. And with us to present is Jan Merks. He is the founder of CiLAB, but also somebody who's hang on. Jan, I might put you on mute while I'm still talking.
Okay.
No problem. But Jan is not only the founder, he's also described himself very interestingly as an intern in his own company, which is a very interesting idea. And I know that I'm looking forward to hearing more about how this business model works and this circularity through a new approach. So Jan, thanks for being with us, and the floor is yours.
You hear me now? Okay, so okay, no. Just linking to the previous presentation, I wish we were based in Groningen, but anyway, we are not. So who am I? Let's see how this works. Should go. Yeah, okay, I'm there. As Dominic mentioned,
Jan, are you still with us? We might have lost your connection.
the standardization work.
Sorry, Jan, we just lost you for a second. Would you mind starting again? Sorry about that.
You hear me now?
Yes.
I'm in an operational environment, so everything can happen here. I'm in the atelier. But so for 50% of my time, I work in the Netherlands, working on the eco-design regulation, where I'm heading, as an example, the standardization initiative from Rennes. And I'm working on innovation projects like Surpass. I'm working more related to the waste regulation for the Flemish Institute of Logistics, where I work in other areas than textiles. I've worked on batteries, on plastics. Recently, we set up a very interesting digital application, which is called CiLAB, which shows for the textile world how you can move from linear to circular. But when working for VIL for a long time, I did a project on the transition for the circular economy for textiles, which was called Silotex 10 years ago. And then the passion came from doing something active. And that's when we started the idea of setting up a textile laboratory in the first place, which we based in the city of Mechelen. Quite interesting because it wasn't existing in that area, but it had, as you said, Dominic, an ancient history in textiles. We were famous in the Middle East on linen. And we are also based in a in an area of Mechelen, which is the Hanswijk area, very close to the Basilic, where we had a long time ago a first workwear project, because we had to do the workwear of the Virgin Mary, which you see here on the picture. And just by coincidence, her one working day of the year was on Sunday, where she has to move through the whole city and wearing the skirt we made for the Virgin Mary at the time. But this says where we are in a Middle East city, let's say, where we operate since 6 years now. The introduction was important to show you that we try to be aligned with the regulation. And as mentioned in the first presentation from Lisanne, we try to work on the huge waste there is in the fashion and textile environment, which basically started 2005 when we opened all the doors in Europe for having production from all over the world. And we try now with specific regulations to bring back to a normal level. The most important one is the eco-design regulations, but there are some other ones, and we try, the work we are doing should be aligned with what's going on from a regulatory perspective. And that's why we decided to set up a new business model, knowing that the circular economy wasn't there yet, and that you have to take into account that you're not profitable in the next coming decade with the operation. So we have to do it in a different way and try to imagine ourselves 10 years from then, from 6 years ago. And it's going well. So we are existing for 6 years now and still continue to work. We were in the first place focusing on supporting in a business-to-business environment companies on their roadmap into circular world by making prototypes, by doing small repairs and these kind of things. So setting up their circular processes. But the whole change came through after 6 months when Shaukat joined the operation, who came into our city as a refugee from Syria. But he was operating in his country, his own factory with 100 people where he was doing full production into the textiles world. And he brought in the knowledge to our small initiative. And since then, we evolved in a very, very rapidly way. But important, before I go into the details of the evolution, important to say is that we are acting really on a different business model. We reversed the business model in a way that we don't spend any euro on overhead. Whatever we do in overhead needs to be done for free. And we only spend money on the operational part. So the people working on the machines are in the regular economy, paid in a regular way. And that's how we operate and try to move step by step to a full profitable business model at the end. But it will take a while. Just coming back, just recently, 3 months ago, as it was touched on before, we added a complete social not-for-profit organization to it, and through combining both business models, we try to have an inflow of really capable people into our operations in the future. So we have now a for-profit part and a non-profit part in the organization. So we started 6 years ago, and this was one of the first meetings. You see in the right-hand corner, Shaukat with the translator, Mahabat, next to it, with a young designer who came in by accident, together with Nikki from Kosh. Some of you will know her. And they were looking for an operational environment to support 3 young designers on their collection for a high-level collection based on upcycled products. They couldn't find any atelier except our at the time, and that's how we started. Immediately, Shaukat was there for a couple of days. We had the first project, and we were already talking to, at that time, to the biggest Belgian retailer, which is GBC. And by coincidence, they just had made a small mistake. You can see the sweater on the photograph. It was every year they have a collection which is mentioning the most popular words in the younger generation, and that year it was simp, but simp is not a word you put on a sweater. And they had 1,000 sweaters in the shops, and they had already big comments from the market on it, and so they were looking for us to work on it and to recycle it or to upcycle it. I'm sorry, not recycle it, upcycle it in a professional way. In a professional way means they didn't have budget for publicity or for supporting us. It was just give it a price. We will see with our designers if we can make something saleable out of it. And you need to do it in the right timing, which was 3 months time we had. So we had to move immediately into a quite industrial environment, but we did it. And that after a year, we had the capabilities to really not only do prototypes, but also do full collections for companies. And you see 2 examples here, Xandres and Essentiel, which are 2 companies who are asking us to do their non-saleable collections and redesign them into new products. For Xandres, we started from trousers and made them into jackets, which were put into their own shops and sold immediately to the market. So this is one of the big pillars we are doing in the atelier. And we had first brands who were doing consecutive collections here. And this is Marlin, who did 3 collections in a row with us, which was quite interesting because then you gain in efficiency more and more because it's a new environment. You have to take care of operations like disassembling it, redesigning it, which are new. And that's how with doing consecutive collections. You're really building up these capabilities. But we're also doing very local, small-scale projects, which is this one, where we made 25 pieces for a dancing group. But these are critical projects for the collaboration because we had to look for 25 colors of textiles here in available in enough quantity, but from dead stock material. And that's how you come to the big textile production companies, which will be important in the next in the rest of the story. These capabilities inspire other people. We collaborate with big designers. Here you see Tim van Steenbergen. He's an Antwerp designer who asked us to support him on his collections, and he now has a full 100% upcycling company, Antwerp. But we're also supporting just students. As mentioned before, students are very important for us, and we try to support them in giving workshops in how to make upcycled clothing, and so on and so on. We're also diverting into other areas than just clothing. Here you see curtains we are making for hotels, or for the Ensor exhibition in Antwerp, we made a book, a big, enormous booklet for the children based on the Ensor designs, which we integrated. Portable museum we made, and this is quite interesting because we also did the Eurovision contest 3 years ago or 4 years ago, where we made clothing for the background singers, and all done in a recycled way. This I told you, and this you saw on the picture, we made the workwear for Manneke Pis, Belgium symbol. So every year at the International Repair Day, he will get our uniform, which is a uniform for a workwear man. But I've talked here about 50% of what we're doing. The other 50% go to repair. And it started 3 years ago when Decathlon came knocking on the door and asked us to support them in their clothing repair they have in Belgium. So they centralizing everything into a service center where they set up their repair, and we are active on site. So we go every week, we go to Decathlon and do which are available in the market, and do it in an integrated way with them. In the meantime, we added second client, which is DB. It's a Norwegian company, and their logistics is done by Blackman in Belgium. And they asked Blackman to set up their repair services for the whole of Europe, except for Norway, which in the meantime we are doing, and we will integrate the same operation into the Blackman operations in the future. Now, the interesting thing is from working integrated is that you're working very closely to the design operations of the companies. So what we are doing more and more with Decathlon and with DB is providing them information on their product themselves, on how many times we repair them, what can be done better in the design of the product so you make them more repairable. So we have meetings with Decathlon, but also with DB, where the designers come to Belgium and just ask us, tell us how you switch from a repair of a zipper for a traveling bag of DB, for example. It takes an hour and a half, which is too much, too costly, and you will not do the repair unless it's within the guarantee period. So you will replace the product because it doesn't cost that much. So they like to bring it back to half an hour or at a maximum an hour. And that's the kind of discussions we have with these kind of brands on how we can bring back the design of the product, better design of the zippers, much more easy to repair, so they can really make it more efficient, the whole repair process. And this really links into The repairability issue we are discussing with the European Commission on the ESPR for textiles at the moment. Of course, it links into the digital product passport, as you can imagine, make the link with how we have to do it, which procedures we can use for doing a better repair, how standardize the procedures, and so on and so on. And finally, to work on the spare parts too. To have better spare parts, which can be even used by the consumer to replace the puller over zipper, for example, and these kind of things we try to work on with these type of customers. But we should talk about workwear. And in workwear, we see in the meantime more and more requests coming in from a lot of companies who are just asking to think about all the overstock of clothing they have. This is the Cambio, which is a German company, but they are very important in Belgium for the renting of the cars. And there we are doing at the moment, using their overstock of clothing and making it into new designs. Our ambition is always to make products which have some value for the customer, and we don't sell anything. We try to reintegrate it into the supply chain of the customer. So we are first taking a lot of time to identify those products which makes value, which are used by the company, and not just publicity products. So we did it for Cambio, we did it for DHL. We made a lot of products, then provide them into their system, and then they can test it, choose it, and then go on with it, and we can do the full production of it. A quite important company in this for us is a local company, construction company, Willemen, who recently did a change of their, how do you call this, logo? They brought all the different departments together, which had a different logo, and brought it into one. But they have a lot of leftovers into two categories. On the left photo, you see those ones which are not functional. They are running shirts for their when they go with a group to do a marathon or to do a local trail, something like this. And this is more an ergonomic problem. It's not a functional one. But then they have a lot of functional clothing where it's a bigger issue to rework them into, because you have to consider it from a functional perspective, but also from an ergonomical, a nice perspective. So it still has to be nice looking. And then I come back to the collaborations we set up in the earlier days, when you see the dancing group, the 25 pieces we had to make with companies like Concordia, which is still the biggest textile producing company in our country. And due to the collaboration we already have, we could discuss on these type of functional products where you really have to look for the textile, the fabric itself, because it has to have the same specification as the original textile you're going to apply. I mean, from the strength, but also it might be that it's fire resistant. These kind of things, you really have to take care of this. And then we are lucky that we are based in Belgium, because we have Concordia, we have CiLAB, companies who can help us, can support us to identify the right type of textile we need to do the overstitching of the product. So spare parts are very critical. And if you see that the recent ESPR doesn't see it as the most critical part, we are an advocate for putting it into the design requirements that people should be transparent on the spare parts you will need for reworking on products, because this is a nice example for this, that you have the right specification, that you know how to do the repair for it. And it takes a long time to identify it. And then you have to do the testing with the printing, because the printing has to stay on, and all of these things, and then work with the company itself. So this is the big project we are doing for Willemen at the moment. My last functional slide is where it even goes a step further. Now we are moving more and more from remanufacturing into the recycling operation. And again, we are lucky in Belgium to have a company like Concordia who has a spin-off, which is Perfy, and we are working a long time with them. They are doing mechanical recycling, so they can do the recycling of products like jeanswear. So they come up with a new fiber. The spinning is done again here locally. Flanders is a big region. So the spinning is done by ESG. It's a Belgian company. The making of the fabric, the weaving, is done by Concordia, but they need a final confection operation. And that's how we work together now with Concordia to do the confection of their jeans line. And you see an example on the picture where we made the first jeans products, which are composed out of 50% purely recycled cotton and 50% recycled PET from bottles still. But we are working, or Perfy is working on to move it into the fully recycled textile. So we have 100% closed recycled textile product there, which they already have for their shirts, but not for the denim line. But it shows that it's possible to do 100% local closed loop recycle chain today, where we have the first products available now. And this is a story I wanted to tell, Dominic. This is where I'm gonna end, because otherwise I speak for hours.
Thanks so much, Jan. I think you could speak for hours and you'd still be telling us very, very interesting things throughout. I want to say thanks for that. It's a really fascinating story, and something I love about it is how you started with this story about the costumes and this work with the design for the students in their dance group, and how this was the kind of instigation for the technical knowledge and the collaboration with the companies and these big market actors. You mentioned Decathlon, Cambio, DHL, Willemin, and how collaborating with these companies addressing their needs became possible through that in the first place. I also appreciate the link to the European regulation, the eco design for sustainable products, the digital product passport, and the need for better parts. Really, really interesting. I saw a question earlier that I'm going to address later, because I think you'll also have something to say about that. But before we go to Q&A, we're going to have a final case study presented. So continuing with our Northwest European tour, we've been Netherlands, Belgium. Now we go over to France, where we see the city of Rennes, who they also wanted to explore this concept of upcycling, but with a very different end user in mind. So instead of working people, we have children and their outdoor clothing. So presenting the case, I'm really happy to introduce Audrey Bonabeau. She is the Sustainable Procurement Officer at Reseco. They're also one of our partners in Circular Shift. And I'll let Audrey introduce her work and this unique case. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dominic. Can you see my screen and hear me well also?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yes, today I will speak about the approach of the city of Rennes to upcycling and preventing used workwear from ending up as waste. And I want to say that I'm honored to give this presentation on behalf of Mathilde Papillon, who is in charge of sustainable purchasing at the city, and also Anne Morillon, the ecological transition project manager at the early childhood department, who were unfortunately unable to attend today. So as Dominic mentioned, I work for Reseco. Just for the context, Reseco is a regional network for sustainable public procurement. We are existing since 2006. Today, this year is our 20 years anniversary, and we're a network that promotes cooperation among public buyers on sustainable public procurement, and we encourage the sharing of sustainable purchasing practices and knowledge. The city and Metropole of Rennes are active members of our network and are also involved in the Circular Shift project as a pilot partner, and that's why I'm presenting for them today. So I will try to walk through the collaborative process that made it possible to upcycle worn-out workwear in Rennes. So in 2004, first, Rennes Métropole adopted a new strategic plan for socially and ecologically responsible purchasing. This document defines how they use their purchasing power to achieve goals related to environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and economic impact, especially on the local scale. But it also defines goals related to the circular economy. And more specifically, they aim through public procurement at promoting the circular economy and also adopting a life cycle approach in their purchasing practices, and to promote the social economy also. So this strategy was adapted to the textile sector through a plan for sustainable clothing, which is overseen by the Purchasing and Resources Department. And three key areas for actions were identified. First, buy better and more responsibly. Secondly, extend the lifespan of purchased clothing and manage their end of life. And finally, stick to the essential for day-to-day work. And this resulted in the launch of an initiative to redefine the provision of workwear to public employees. The objective was to really align workwear provision closely with operational needs, ensuring that employees receive only what is necessary for their functions and their roles. In this context, large consultation within the municipality took place, and as part of the exchanges with the early childhood department, the idea of upcycling workwear emerged. So indeed, the early childhood department needed a concrete solution to provide outdoor clothing to their public service users, in this case, children, because we are currently leading an Erasmus Plus project called Let's Go Outside, More Nature in Daycare Centers, to connect young children more closely with nature and also encourage them to go outside every day, regardless of the weather. On top of that, there were already existing repair and sewing skills in the early childhood department, and a strong culture of upcycling, meaning transforming textile waste into new textile products. Project team, a cross-department project team was then set up, and you can see the different departments which were involved in the team, with two main responsibilities. The first one was to identify what they could do internally, so find a solution for reusing worn-out workwear and preventing it from ending up in landfills. And secondly, explore what could be done externally and how they could also support the local social economy sector in line with their purchasing strategy. So the project, as you can see on the right side, received initial support from a specific department within the municipality called CoProd, which coordinates and facilitates major projects, such as the redefinition, in this case, of the workwear policy. The logistic hubs was also involved in the process because it oversees and manages the municipality's textile assets and the provision of workwear to public employees. And finally, this team was in charge of identifying sources of used textiles that can be transformed to upcycle them into toys, pens, and overalls, but also setting priorities. So it was decided to start first by making pens and overalls for the children to keep them clean while they play outside, in line with the need of the early childhood department. As for the procurement department, it carried out a market consultation with local businesses to identify local circular service offerings for upcycling. So the project team worked. And finally, in 2025, a procurement was finally launched to transform a part of the workwear used by city workers into outdoor clothing for children in daycare centers, thanks to upcycling. The contract was awarded for 4 years to a social enterprise, an association called Prelude, that promotes employment opportunities for people who are distant from the job market. And as you can see on the left side, jacket sleeves of high visibility vests are currently repurposed as pants cuffs. And the municipality logo is also kept, which is also simplifying in this case, because often when you want to reuse workwear, there is some logo issues. Through this contract, the city would like to equip 19 daycare centers with 20 pairs of pants each. And after 1 year of the contract, already 210 pairs of pants were made, meaning that it's approximately, I think, 50% of the goal has been achieved. A key point was for the municipality was to allow through the contract for continuous improvement, and also the continuous improvement. And right now, the possibility to upcycle the postal service or fire department jackets is currently being explored. What we can say about this project is, first, I think that the right people, needs and ambitions in a way were aligned within the municipality, because you had political support through the strategy and also the sustainable clothing plan. There was a need, real need that need to be fulfilled within the early childhood department. And finally, the end users, it's also beneficial for the end users. But there was still some difficulties to overcome. Internally first, a new logistic system needed to be set up between the logistic hub, the early childhood department, and also the social enterprise. Because the social enterprise cannot ensure delivery. That means that either the warehouse staff of the logistic hub or the early childhood department staff will drop off the workwear at the social enterprise premises and then pick them up once they're ready. And this required extra time from colleagues, actually, so time allocation. Externally, then, the municipality also had to support the social enterprise during the pre-contract phase to provide extensive guidance about public procurement, and also simplify the process for them. This resulted in the drafting of a very straightforward and simple contract. And finally, another key challenge was to maintain a cross-functional collaboration among the 4 stakeholders involved in the contract. In this case, the logistic hub, the social enterprise, the early childhood department, and the procurement department, to just align on logistic, timing, and monitoring of this contract, and the creation of a new role at the early childhood department, the one of Mrs. Morillon, as an ecological transition project manager, really supported this process. Overall, the feedback from all the involved stakeholders is very positive about the contract for the association. First, it gives them external visibility, and the duration of the contract also allows for allows enough time for experimentation, but also to spread out the dedicated budget for the procurement department and the logistic hubs. They have been very happy to reduce the amount of clothing they have to discard, and also they reported that the delivery to the social enterprise premises has little logical impact on their operation. And finally, I would like to add that it's also a way to raise awareness, raise awareness of children on secondhand clothes from a very, very young age. So to conclude, this project demonstrates how collaboration is necessary to use workwear in a more circular and responsible way, and how it can also support the city's circular procurement goals while also creating a social and environmental positive impact. And that will be all for me. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Audrey. Really well done, and a great note, I think, to bring up in the conversation as well, to close there, about how there's really a great harmony in this case, right? I mean, the clothing itself is circular and sustainable and contributes to a better environment for the children to explore and grow a connection to through this Erasmus funded project. And yeah, and hopefully helps to instill the right mindset, which is also much later on, if these children grow up to become procurement officers, they will also need mindsets that match that. Well, let's hope they do something more creative. But regardless, I want to say thank you to the three speakers. I think that we've had some really interesting points of view from different parts of the value chain. I also see some questions have started to flow into the Q&A, so please feel free. You can also see in the chat there is a link promoted by my colleague Anita. It is more information about the case of Rennes on the CPRON platform. CPRON is the Circular Procurement Network. You should check out that website if you're not aware of it already. It's a really fantastic resource. Earlier, I spoke about how there's not enough information out there in the past. Well, there's a lot of the information out there today on CPRON, so do check that out. But for the Q&A, I'd like to first ask a question which I think goes back to Carolina, and I think Jan might have something to say about this as well. It's a question from Els, who's working at the City of Mechelen, and Els was asking, how do you match in the procurement the need for recycled clothing, recycled workwear, but still having these fundamental qualities of workwear as durable, as safe, as meeting these requirements? How do you sort of match those things? And maybe if Carolina wants to come in first, and I think Jan might have something to add afterwards.
Okay, thank you for the question, Els. Well, to say first, we did choose T-shirts and sweaters and denim because there on that lot there were no restrictions on the technical demands, etc. But I can tell you that also on the technical demands part, that the jeans, for instance, consist of 50% post-consumer material and 50% rejuvenated cotton from Perfy, what Jan also mentioned before, the company. So we work with them as well. So we have 100% recycled jeans, and that is really strong and is meets the demands of a normal pair of jeans. But we did not go into the, how do you say, the fluorescational workwear with technical layers and stuff. So we really chose these innovations because they were easier for us to workwear and to combine with our workwear tender.
Thanks a lot, Carolina. Does anyone want to jump in and add anything to that point?
The thing I can add is that it really needs collaboration there, because it's a moving target somehow, and we are in the rather early stages of good recycling processes. and we know that the quality still needs to improve, but it's really a continuous process where those companies who are doing the recycling try to improve their processes, and it's related to testing, but accepting that sometimes it doesn't work, because we are that's my perspective. We are not in a position that this market is already mature enough to ensure that you have the right technical specifications. That's our experience today. But it's going the right direction, and that's important.
Yeah,
And what I
indeed.
really want to add on that is that when you do it in a local way, we have to try it actually just to meet certain demands and to hire, for instance, the post-consumer materials. And when you do it in a local setting, then it's easier to match than do a big lot with H&M or with another company. So it's really, but we really want to set up the right example that it can happen and it can be done. But well, as Jan tells us, it's something that doesn't mature really fast because the market is not really into it or has done innovations on other percentages and in their materials, so they can't cope. But what we want to show them is that it is possible.
And adding
Thanks
to the
so
last
much.
part, Dominic, that's then again regulation, which will really enforce the market to catch up. And that's what we're waiting for.
Indeed, you and I both. I see some really interesting questions coming into the chat. I saw a few from Jack van Ven, but I'd like to just first stay on this topic of the workwear itself, because there's a nice question from Lorraine that's come in about the branding and the logos on the workwear. And another thing that is very important to preserve, she says uniforms often have logos for police or postal workers that organizations need to ensure doesn't get into the wrong hands. So this is a big issue for public safety and security and reputational risk as well. Companies I know are also facing the same types of concerns as well as these public organizations. But I would like to open the question up to see, does anyone have a reaction about what sort of response you might be able to give to this quite important challenge?
For us, there was, I know, and Joel, I know that Joel doesn't want to speak in English, but Joel, we did in our work tender, we actually asked our contractors that they could work with a removable logo, so it wouldn't be needed to shred. So that's something that we put into our tender, that it shouldn't be logos that are really not easy to remove, but it should be easy to be removed so that we wouldn't shred the whole thing. So that's what I know about the workwear tender. And I don't know, Joel, if you want to say more on that, but if it's like this, it's okay.
If you do want to jump in, feel free to raise your hand, Joel, because I'm not sure where you are in the sea of Teams. You can't put your microphone like that. Which, if you'll raise your hand, I find you.
I like to give a response quickly to this, because I really like this answer, and this is what the future should be, that you should put it into your requirements. That from an eco-design perspective, that products in the future will have removable logos, and it's doable. We have to take care of the existing, and I know that the problem we're getting a lot. I gave you the example of GBC, which was not even workwear, but we had to remove completely the text. This was the requirement, and this is hard labor. This is a cost. So the more you can avoid it, the longer the lifetime of those products, which are made for a long lifetime, will be. But there are different solutions, but the real solution is what Carolina said. Ask it.
Thanks a lot. I'd like to also ask a question to Audrey then, because there was one or two. So from Jack, he was asking more about the upcycling or the upstream possibilities within this case. So do you know if within the case in Rennes, they also looked at, for instance, better usable materials or disintegration that could of components? And a second question for you, Audrey, while we're at it, is from Julie, who asks, how did the procurers describe the task in the tender itself? So did they really describe exactly the number of vests and trousers, or what was the sort of detail present, or was that left more flexible?
So first, to answer the first question regarding the consideration of the upstream, yes, upstream consideration for this project. I think the goal was really to focus on upcycling, but then I can also not pronounce myself on the overall purchasing strategy of the city of Rennes. So I will have to confirm with the project manager to answer this question. Then regarding the tender in itself, the contract, as I mentioned, was drafted in a very simple way. The first goal was to reassure the social enterprise, because it was the first time they were also taking part in the public procurement. And then the need was described in a very functional way. No precise goals were defined in the public procurement. And the requirements also allowed for continuous improvement, meaning they started now with this 210 pairs of pants for the children, but the idea is also to explore if in the future other products could also be upcycled or transformed, or like thanks also to other sources of textiles, such as the fire department's jackets, as I was saying, or the postal services jackets.
Thanks a lot, Audrey. And maybe I can go back to one of Jack's questions for Jan, really about the business model, because I think it's important that we see circular business cases shown, but often, and indeed what we're also doing in Circular Shift, is we're really concerned with that scale-up approach. So if you can answer the question about how does the business model work, and could it be translated to a larger scale as well, so that it would be also economical for not just an atelier with 5 employees, but something in the medium to large size.
Yeah, sensitive question, but and simple to answer, because yes, you need scale from a volume perspective. So you need to go by volume. It's a normal economic rule that you cannot afford a certain overhead unless you have a certain volume to take care of, and we have to grow to an atelier of about 15 people in total. We are 12 now, so we are getting close. But the main intention for us was to give the support to the people who are really do the work, and to appreciate for the knowledge they bring into the company. And the upper level, let's say it like this, those people who are taking care of the overnet, the strategic part and these kind of things, they have to ensure that they get value out of the initiative, but not financial one. So and from really, if you look at it from my perspective, what I learned from it is a lot in relation to repairability, for example. So I'm heard about at the commission if they are working on the repairability for textiles. So and that's the job I can get finance through, but it took a while to convince our government about it, because yes, we are getting subsidies. We are subsidized for the first 4 years, we had like 50% of our financials came from subsidies. Through subsidies, we still need it, but that's how we grow. So we put this into the labor work and not shift it to our private salaries, for example. So we're really focusing on the labor, and that's it's sometimes difficult to explain, but it's very simple how you operate. You only have to be able to do it. If you're a young entrepreneur, it's not that easy to do it. I'm a little bit older than most of the young entrepreneurs, and then it gets different. And then you might find the right balance because let's say really practically 50% of my work is remunerated. I get money out of it, and 50% is CiLAB, and that's how you do it.
Excellent, Jan. I'm going to give a final word to Carolina then before we wrap up with a final bit of conclusions on a slide from Circular Shift. So Carolina, over to you.
What I would like to add on the business modeling thing, you should know if you really want to transform the textile industry, that it takes really investments on how to create it, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of R&D, which also costs a lot. So what I really want to say to other municipalities, please take into account that it's an investment that you have to do now, but it will return itself. But we have to do the investment in creating the market demand by our procurement, but also not to be too prudent on giving subsidies for things that cost a bit more, but bring more value creation in a broader sense than only the economic way on what the price is, but also how it gives social jobs, also ecological benefits, that kind of thing. So that's what I want to add to the business modeling. So in the first range, if you want to transform, please do subsidy those initiatives to see that it can work and that it can happen. So
thanks so much. What a really positive note for us to end on. I just want to say a final sort of wrap-up remark. I think we've heard a lot of really excellent points today, but one thing that's common is that if you want to advance circular economy through public procurement, you need, as a public buyer, to overcome a few barriers. Some of them are institutional, some of them are market-related, but a lot of them are indeed cultural and about really learning. You need to be able to understand your value chain from the inside as well, knowing which of your departments in the administration are involved. We heard a really good point from Audrey about how maybe by doing a circular procurement, you're alleviating some of the burden from a facilities management. You're also in a position as a public buyer to create more impact often than the market buyers we heard in the first presentation. In Circular Shift, we're trying to overcome all of these barriers through trainings for public authorities, through a new concept of value chain methodology, so that everything we've heard today becomes integrated from the start of the procurement, but also before and much after in the monitoring. I would like to finally share just one little slide. It concerns our project itself and how you can stay in touch, because we're quite nascent and we're still going for a few more years. So hopefully you can all see a little QR code on the screen. It's the final little homework for the day, is to scan that. You can join our mailing list. We had a recent webinar on the circular procurement of ICT and textiles, or ICT and mobile phones, rather, if you're working on this, which are other product categories in the project. If you'd like to learn more about the good practices you've heard, you can get in touch. You can also find out more through the links in the chat to CPRON. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Just really on a final note to the speakers. So Anita, Lizana, Audrey, Jan, and Carolina, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for the audience for your interest. And now you've learned a lot, I hope. So get inspired and be creative and go out there and be the change in your own organizations. And I hope you'll stick with Circular Shift and see us again soon. So thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.